Hello everyone, today I got another Hitbox video on the menu. A little while ago I did a vote to see what character you wanted me to cover in an upcoming video, and the winner of that vote, by quite the margin, was Mr. Game & Watch. Now, despite having very few notable players actually playing him, in recent times, Game & Watch has grown quite quickly to become a rather infamous character. Could this reason lie within his hitboxes, or is the truth a bit more three-dimensional? Why don't we take a look? Today's hitboxes were created by Eyedonutz and Zeckemyro. A link to their Twitter can be found in the description below. And as usual, if there's a character you want me to cover in a future video, let me know in the comments and I'll take it into consideration for next time. In any case, let's begin. Game & Watch's jab is a little unusual, at least compared to most other jabs. It only really has one part of the move, where he uses his pump to attack, which just kind of repeats for as long as you would like, until you let go of it and it launches away. Despite looking very similar, the first hit of the move actually has some different properties. The first hit has 3 hitboxes, though effectively only 2 of them interact with other fighters. The one the farthest away drags them towards Game & Watch, while the closest pushes them away. After this, you can continue directly into the rapid jab, which looks very similar, with the only difference really being that the angles now push away from Game & Watch. At any point you can release and trigger the launcher, which looks like this. It's actually a very unusual launcher, being at a diagonal angle, whereas most other launchers are just a single hit in front of the character. Due to this angle, there's actually a possibility that it might miss smaller characters or characters with specific hurtbox shifting animations. Though that does seem to be pretty rare. One of the less crazy jabs we've seen so far. But you know, sometimes a jab is just a jab. F-tilt is a pretty alright move. While it might not be super fast, it certainly makes up for it in the sheer amount of active frames it has. The hitboxes themselves are a little strange. Not necessarily in their size, it looks about what you would expect, having effectively 2 hitboxes, one close to Game & Watch and one farther away. Though the weird thing about them is the data behind them. The first active frames are fine, being a sour spot close to Game & Watch and a sweet spot farther away. But after this, for some reason, they add 2 new hitboxes over the last ones and change them around a bit. Now there are 4 hitboxes with 2 hitting grounded opponents and 2 hitting aerial opponents respectively. And there are no longer a sweet spot and a sour spot. And for some reason, the hitboxes that hit grounded opponents exclusively deal more knockback than the aerial ones. Seems pretty strange to just randomly make the lingering part of a move stronger when only hitting grounded opponents. But at this point, I'm not really surprised anymore. Yet again, we have more grounded and aerial hitboxes with up tilt, which consists of 2 parts. First, Game & Watch launches you one way before launching you away again. A little unnecessary if you ask me, but you do as you please, Game & Watch. The first one tries to launch you into the second part of the move. The only difference between the hitboxes are the angles, which try to accommodate for your position and make sure the move connects. And then the second hit just launches away. The move does have partial intangibility on Game & Watch's hands for the entirety of the move, and when he raises his arms, his entire arm is intangible. It's one of Game & Watch's less good moves. It's fine, I guess, but he just has so many better options in pretty much every situation that you probably won't find too much use for it. Speaking of situational moves with bad hitboxes, down tilt is a move that exists. Its hitbox is, not good. Not only is its size and range just kind of unimpressive, but it's one of the only moves in the game to exclusively hit grounded opponents. As we have seen in the past, when there is a grounded and aerial hitbox distinction, there's usually at least one of each. But here this is simply just not the case. It only has grounded hitbox flags, meaning it simply cannot hit aerial opponents. Combine this with its rather unimpressive frame data, and you got yourself a very situational move at best. Game & Watch's moves are such hit or miss. Like, he's got some stupidly good moves, but he also got stuff like this. Lastly out of his normals is his dash attack. It's pretty good if nothing else but having a lot of active frames and being pretty fast. The hitbox itself is pretty good, being just a single hitbox around his head. Though despite wearing a helmet, his head is not intangible, so he is pretty exposed while doing this. After a while, the hitbox becomes weaker and a little smaller. It's a pretty simple but effective burst option. Before moving on, let's have a look at his grabs. Now, it's around this time where I usually just say that the grab is run-of-the-mill and move on. But there is actually a bit more of an anomaly here, because his grabs are actually kinda good. His standing grab is pretty standard, it's a bit above average. But the fun begins when we look at dash grab. So like, what happened here? Is this the unpaid intern having a laugh, or is this an actual design decision? I actually have a hard time guessing which one it could be. It's pretty rare for a character in this game to have a vastly longer dash grab relative to their standing grab. But here we are. His pivot grab is just about the same, but I usually give a bit more leniency to pivot grabs because you can no longer run through opponents, making them much harder to land, thus warranting more range. So yeah, some actual good grab range. I never thought I would see the day. Moving on, let's have a look at his aerials. Now we're really getting into the good stuff. Neutral air is a pretty ridiculous move. It's got hitboxes, a lot of them actually. It's very disjointed with the fish covering the sides of Game & Watch and the bowl covering above him. I'll save you the details on this one, because there's a lot here. Basically, the hitboxes just try to keep it within the move until the launcher comes out. It might drop because of how the hitboxes move down, but for the most part, if you don't move too much, it should work. Because of how disjointed this move is, it's great for pretty much everything. You can catch landings with it, fish for combos in neutral, cover ledge options. It's a very good move overall, and its hitbox certainly reflects that. Forward air is a bit of a weird move, as in it's actually a projectile tied to an aerial, which is pretty uncommon. The move has two parts. First, there is a small hitbox when he actually drops the bomb, and when I say small, I mean it's really tiny. Like, it might actually be one of the smallest hitboxes in the game. It just knocks the opponent back and deals a little damage. It can combo into the bomb if you land with it, but outside from that, it's pretty inconsequential. The bomb explosion is quite a bit bigger, however. The bomb itself is a little strange. While dropping the bomb, it has no hitbox, meaning you can jump through it just fine, but if you hit it yourself, you can disable it. The bomb explodes after it hits the ground, or after a certain amount of time. It's a singular big hitbox launching away, and it's pretty powerful too. It's a pretty good move overall. Good for zoning and good for pressure. Back air is quite a bit more simple, being a standard multi-hit move with a launcher at the end. It has two identical hitboxes with auto-link angles that keep you inside the move, and then it simply launches you away. It's worth mentioning that the move also has a landing hitbox, which is pretty rare since those are usually only reserved for down airs or special moves. It looks like this, it's nothing crazy, but it does have a little more reach than the actual back air, which is nice I suppose. It's a pretty great move, and since forward air is now much different than it used to be, back air's purpose is a bit more pronounced. It's a good move overall, even if the hitboxes are very standard. His up air is yet another projectile aerial. In Smash 4 it used to be this kind of weird hitbox winbox thing, but in Ultimate they completely remade the move and it now only has hitboxes. The move simply spawns a multi-hit projectile that travels up. It hits 5 times with the final hit being the launcher, though it's not very strong. Not too much to say about the hitboxes. They just stun you and launch you slightly up. It can be kinda hard to land against this move because of how fast you can use it. Great for covering the air, but it's not like that was a problem for Game & Watch to begin with. Another quite infamous move is down air. Often used in combination with up B, it's not only great for landing, but also getting kills off stage. The move only has a single hitbox. Early on the move it starts out smaller, only covering about 80% of the key. During these frames the move actually spikes, but it's pretty hard to land, and often you don't really need it, since the second part of the move is not only bigger, but usually gets the job done just fine. It auto-cancels pretty quickly after the active frames end, making it hard to punish overall. If that wasn't enough, the move also has a landing hitbox, activating when Game & Watch hits the ground, making it even harder to punish. It's another one of Game & Watch's really good moves. Next up, let's have a look at his specials. Why don't we just start out doing the one everyone is waiting for. Up B is without a doubt the best out of shield option in the entire game. It's frame 3, which is tied with a few other characters for fastest option, but unlike those other moves, its hitbox not only covers both sides of Game & Watch, but the move is very hard to punish, and if you hit your opponent, it's also a combo starter. Now if that was enough, the move is also completely intangible during the middle part of the move, because why not, right? The hitboxes that appear early covers both sides of Game & Watch, and launch the opponent upwards. Game & Watch also ascends afterwards, and while he's doing so he has a hitbox on his body launching away. After this he is not put into freefall and can attack afterwards, which conveniently enough allows him to combo off the earlier parts of the move. It's great for recovering, and even when you're just on stage, this move combined with up air can lead to some serious aerial pressure. The more I think about this move, the more I am surprised that a move like this actually exists in the game. We're looking at a frame 3 out of shield option that can combo and completely reverse the advantage states. That is also almost impossible to punish. It's frankly a ridiculous move. Well, I hope you're hungry because it looks like the chef is cooking up something fierce. And by that I mean really fierce ledge traps. Because damn, look at that. Chef is an oddly good move. I don't remember seeing this move used very much in Smash 4. But in this game it certainly has some usage. As with most projectiles, the move cannot be visualized in action, but the individual pieces can. All these sausages have the same hitboxes, despite being different shapes. Game & Watch also has a hitbox on the pan every time he creates one. Aside from that, the hitboxes are active until they either despawn or hit the ground. Moving on to something a little more tame, down B is a bit of an odd move. In this game it kinda works like a reflector and an absorber in the same move. It will absorb energy-based projectiles, while non-energy-based ones are reflected. The light blue hitbox is the one that reflects, while the dark blue one is the one that absorbs. The bucket itself has 3 stages of charge, and every time a projectile is absorbed it charges 1, unless the projectile deals more than 10% or 20% respectively, in which it fills 2 or 3 charges. When the bucket is full you can unleash the oil panic, and its hitbox looks like this. It's pretty solid, and almost completely safe seeing how it has relatively little lag and the move is likely to deal a lot of damage. The multiplier is a simple 2 times multiplier of the total amount of damage absorbed from all projectiles. Alright, here comes the fun one. Side B is quite an iconic move. It's got the capability to not only end stocks at 0%, but also do practically nothing. When using this move you get a random number from 1 to 9, which determines the effect of the judge. Despite this, all the variants of the move have the same hitboxes, that being 2 hitboxes. One close to Game & Watch, and one on the hammer itself. The angles, damage, and knockback, however, is affected by the number, so let's go through them real quick. 1 deals very little damage, has no hits done at all, and deals 12% in recoil to you, just to add insult to injury. Or injury to injury in this case. 2 also deals very little damage, but it at least has a little hit stun and does not damage yourself. 3 launches the opponent behind Game & Watch, but also does very little damage. 4 also just launches them away, but deals slightly more knockback and damage. 5 is a multi-hit dealing a fair amount of damage in total. 6 is also just a damaging launch, but with fire, so it's obviously more powerful. 7 is the Lucky 7, which on hit spawns 3 apples that heal for 4% each. They do despawn very quickly, so you better eat fast. 8 is a basic freeze effect. It's about as useful as any other freeze effect in the game that is not PK freeze. And the 9, which I think everyone knows what it does. It's just pure destruction, dealing a ton of damage and knockback, capable of killing at pretty much any percent. But that is judge. It's a fun move, but pretty much always a big risk. But it does have a high reward for some lucky souls. Lastly, there are smash attacks. Despite being a very slow smash attack, up smash certainly should not be taken lightly. It comes out on frame 21, which is very slow. Though to compensate, it does have relatively little lag and hits really hard. It's very safe on shield because of how much damage it deals. And if that wasn't enough, Game & Watch is completely invincible during the active frames of the move. And, well, the hitbox is, shall we say, quite good. Like, the invincibility is almost just unnecessary because the hitbox already covers like all of Game & Watch. But with the invincibility, it just makes sure absolutely nothing can beat this move. Speaking of oppressive smash attacks, down smash is, well, the hitbox kinda does speak for itself, doesn't it? Like, look at that. The 2 hitboxes on the hammer bury you if you get hit by them, which, I don't know about you, but that is just one of my favorite mechanics. The hitbox on Game & Watch launches you very sharply to either side depending on where you were when you got hit by them. If you are in the air or downed, the hammer hitboxes will not bury you, but instead will launch you upwards for some reason. Another interesting thing about this move is that there is actually a typo in the move's files. In the spot where the game is usually supposed to say what kind of particle effect the move uses, it's usually supposed to say normal, but instead someone misspelled it as normal, leading to the move not actually having a particle effect at all. Despite this, the sour spot does not have this mistake, making the whole thing pretty unusual overall. It's not very often you see mistakes like this in a game as polished as Smash, but hey, nobody's immune to typos. I sure know I've had a fair share of mine so far. This move is really strange. It does have fairly little lag, I suppose, though it's not nearly as safe on shield as up smash is, the way a lot of people seem to think it is. Though if you do get hit by the hammer part, you can kiss your stock goodbye as early as 60%, and probably even early as that. For the final move we have F smash, which is pretty simple. It's really just 3 hitboxes. The 2 the farthest away are sweet spot, while the closest one is a sour spot. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's very basic, but it does hit very hard should you manage to land it. If only there was a way to lock your opponent in place just in range of F smash. Wouldn't that be crazy and not stupid at all? But anyways, that is Game & Watch's hitboxes. A lot of very peculiar hitboxes at this time. A lot of them are not like crazy big or all that oppressive, though he certainly does have a few of those as well. I really feel like Game & Watch is one of those characters whose only half of their moveset is particularly good. But in this case, that other half is insanely good. Now in the future, I do want to do more polls and voting kind of stuff, since it was fun, but for the time being I think I'll just stick to making videos for characters I see the most requests for, and characters I just want to cover. And it's not impossible that there is another DLC character on the horizon, so I gotta prepare for that as well. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.